Seo-woon learns the skill and decides to give it a test run. He lets an arrow fly, and the impact is absolutely devastating. This bow is way better than that junk crossbow from the last game. It's a massive upgrade. With the area cleared, Seo-woon takes a moment to rest and loot before heading back into the fray. After scouring the village houses for a little while, he finds 0 rare items. It seems these basic shacks just do not have anything worth keeping. He keeps hoping to find something legendary, maybe even a cloak of hiding. While standing by the window, he spots a tall tower in the center. He figures that is where the real high-tier loot is hiding. He rushes over to the tower. The door is still locked, a great sign that no one has looted it yet. He enters the tower and shuts the door behind him just in case, before starting his long climb up. A few moments later, he reaches the summit only to find absolutely nothing useful. Disappointed and furious, he slams his fist into the wall, cursing the luck because sometimes the game just does not go your way. Right then, he spots 2 players below, casually looting nearby houses as if they are the only ones on the server. Seo-woon is left, wondering how to handle this duo when he suddenly sees them making a direct path for his tower. The 2 players assume the building is empty since the front door is still shut tight. The moment they step inside, they find a healing scroll and take it as a lucky sign for their run. Seo-woon, watching the entire situation unfold, realizes he missed that scroll because it was buried under all that useless junk at the entrance. However, he is actually glad he missed it. It turned out to be the most perfect accidental bait for his trap. Since the 2 are getting hyped over a trash-tier healing scroll, Seo-woon realizes he is dealing with a couple of total noobs. He does not hesitate and dives from above, aiming to land a crushing first strike to take them both out. The duo suddenly spots a shadow on the floor, and before they can react, Seo-woon slams down between them. Just from landing, he sees the mage hasn't even cast a barrier. Seo-woon realizes this guy is trash. He lunges at the mage and delivers a heavy punch. Before he can land the finishing blow, the mage panics and unleashes a desperate flame attack. Seo-woon dodges easily, causing the mage to blast his own teammate instead. The teammate screams at him, asking why he is being set on fire, while the mage frantically apologizes, claiming he was trying to hit Seo-woon and not his friend. Once the flames die down, they realize our hero is so low and decide to team up and take him down together. The charred warrior swings his heavy axe at Seo-woon, but he just dances out of the way. He keeps swinging, but Seo-woon keeps dodging, making the axe guy even more frustrated. Seo-woon baits the guy into exactly the right spot, until he accidentally buries his axe into his own teammate. The warrior quickly apologizes, saying it was purely an accident. The mage just groans, begging his friend to hurry up and pull the axe out before his partner can even move. Seo-woon blurs behind the mage and smashes his head in. He mocks the warrior, thanking him for setting up the kill. He wanted to kill them both with one strike, but the guy with the axe has heavy chest armor. Now that the armor is off, Seo-woon wonders if the guy will finally be faster, since players like him usually have an armor debuff. The axe warrior lunges forward in a rage, but our hero just vaults high into the air to dodge. The guy watches in pure horror as Seo-woon descends back down with a brutal kick aimed at his head. Seo-woon springs back into the air, and the dude confidently shouts that he will not be able to stay up there forever. The second Seo-woon comes back into his range again. Alright, let's watch as this guy lets out a massive aura strike that shreds through Seo-woon. Seo-woon admits that the guy's strength is on a whole different level, but he warns him that brute force alone isn't going to save him from this situation. Enraged, the player lunges forward, screaming that he'll shut Seo-woon's mouth once he's dead. Seo manages to block the hit, and their battle explodes into total chaos. But here's the catch, Axe Guy is actually fighting a mere clone. The real Seo-woon is right behind him, mocking him for fighting a shadow. Seo-woon steps out of the building, and that's when the player finally notices him. He screams in confusion, asking exactly when he got there. Seo-woon just ignores the shouting and stares at the building he almost chopped in half. He starts teasing him, asking if he's curious about what happens when you kick a falling building. Siwoon delivers a powerful kick, while the guy is still rambling about who he's fighting. It finally clicks, the person he was attacking wasn't real at all. Panic sets in as he sees the tower falling, and he starts begging Siwoon to save him. The massive tower crashes down, crushing him instantly. Total game over. Right after Siwoon finishes the guy off. He realizes he didn't technically get the kill, since the rubble did the work. He calls himself a total fool for not thinking this plan through properly. Luckily for him, the loot chests still spawn from under all those rocks. Siwoon is just glad the chests appeared, otherwise he'd be digging in the dirt like a dog for hours. Siwoon starts looting and finds a gold mine, everything from powerful rings to secret manuals. Once the looting is done, he decides it's time to move. He even found a mage's robe that blocks weather but has 0 defense. He sees that the zone is closing, so he marks the center of the map to make sure he stays ahead of it. After a quick sweep of the other houses yields nothing, Siwoon heads out. Even though the trip was quite long, he moved incredibly fast, having mastered that same movement technique used by the old man. Moments later, he arrives. Siwoon reaches a new area and gets a notification. He's entered a monster spawn zone. Turns out, some maps have special areas where monsters just keep appearing. Plus, a powerful boss monster will eventually show up. If a player manages to take it down, they get a guaranteed special item drop. Siwoon realizes this game has way more monsters than the last version. He insults the game for not giving him a heads up about this beforehand. Seems there are buff monsters too, which are different from the standard bosses. Taking these guys out grants the player a temporary boost in power. Suddenly, an ear-piercing screech hits him so hard he has to cover his ears. Now look at this. He spots 2 players fighting monsters and decides to sneak up on them. He analyzes their roles. One is a mage and the other is a martial artist. Siwoon raises his bow, ready to drop one of them with a single shot. The 2 players fight back to back, cutting through the mob. The swordsman uses his skills to slice through the monsters, while his mage partner blasts them with streaks of lightning. Out of nowhere, an arrow whistles through the air, barely missing the mage. The mage instantly realizes they're being ambushed and alerts his partner. One tells the other to ignore the monsters and focus on the guy ambushing them. But the swordsman refuses. They are almost done with these mobs. He wants to finish the loot before dealing with the sniper outside. The mage screams back. He tells him to forget the rewards. They are about to get wiped by another player. Siwoon spots their internal conflict and decides it is time to prey on the chaos. He rains down more arrows, crackling with lightning. The mage barely blocks it, begging for another barrier. The mage snaps back, frantically throwing up more protection. But he knows it won't hold and begs to retreat. That greedy swordsman won't budge. Running means losing everything. The loss is too much. He won't leave the rewards. Kill the monsters first, then we move. The barrier shatters. Desperate, the mage summons a wall. The swordsman loses it, screaming at his partner. Siwoon is actually happy about the wall. This just made things much easier for him. Trapped inside the barrier, the mage argues that a solid wall beats wasting mana. He thinks they're safe now. The swordsman disagrees. Now they have no idea where the enemy even is. The mage thinks the wall is impenetrable. But the swordsman knows they just pinned themselves down. Now they're stuck until the wall drops. While still slashing through monsters, he threatens to quit the whole team. Then a storm of arrows falls from above. They barely survive that wave. Get rid of this wall now. But it takes 5 minutes to drop. Meanwhile, Siwoon pulls out a special explosion scroll that detonates after 10 seconds. He activates the scroll and ties it to an arrow. He counts down 5 seconds and then lets the arrow fly. They are still busy, having a stupid argument when the arrow lands. A massive explosion rips everything apart on impact. A serpent tries to charge Siwoon. He deletes it instantly. The mage crawls out, only to find an arrow waiting for him. Siwoon thanks them for pulling up that wall. This is exactly why he is going to be eating well tonight. The guy knows he is. Finished, he closes his eyes as Siwon fires an arrow through his head. A chest appears. It looks like the mage died back in that explosion. Checking through the loot, he finds a 7-star Cultivation Art Manual. It is the base for legendary sword arts. The system offers to replace his current white physique arts, but Siwon flatly refuses. The manual is totally useless, but hey, at least some of this loot actually works. He searches. Inside the chest, he spots Takar's ring. That's the secret, how the guy actually survived that massive explosion. Moving on, Siwon digs through the rubble to locate the mage's chest. A win, he pops the lid and finds the legendary Escrow's necklace. There is also a high-tier grimoire. Unfortunately, its level is way beyond him for now. Looting done, he quickly cleans house, wiping out those serpents that were bullying the other two. Honestly, he is a bit disappointed. They were even struggling against these weaklings. Once the snakes are dead, he notices they left some loot. He picks up a rare material called Tears of Lamia. It is used for all sorts of high-level magic experiments or for crafting powerful gear. Pretty valuable stuff. He also finds Tyron's necklace, a nice little bonus that gives his agility a boost. The necklace is a solid find, but those tears, he has no clue what to do with them. Siwon finds a spot. He needs to cultivate his inner energy, all while plotting to take down that buff monster for the upper hand. But first, a reality check. Is he even strong enough to hunt a boss monster like that yet? Also, he has to wonder if the other players are thinking the exact same thing he is. Day 2 arrives. He checks the count. 60 people are already dead. This game is a bloodbath. Out of those 60, he only has 8 kills. To him, that is basically amateur numbers. Time to move. He heads toward his center map marker, trekking through the scorching heat of a brutal, unforgiving desert landscape. Man, he is really starting to miss the nice weather from that first game. The heat is intense. He wonders if moving before sunset was a mistake, should have waited for the cool. Look. He spots a bird carrying a chest across the sky. Instantly, he knows that has to be a supply drop. No hesitation. He sprints after the drop and gets there first, but right before he opens the thing, wait. The system issues a warning. If he opens it, a red light will broadcast his exact location every 30 minutes for the next 6 hours. Talk about a target. Still, he opens it anyway. The risk has to be worth whatever insane loot is inside, right? Before he can even check his prize, that red light flares up, screaming his position to every player nearby. Panic time. He needs to grab the loot and disappear before the wolves start closing in on him. Boom! The first item is a total game changer, the Cloak of Hiding. He also pulls out a red cloud pill, a rare spiritual elixir. It massively boosts inner energy, which is a huge win. But there is a catch. It leaves him paralyzed for 10 hours. Next up, a 4th circle stone. It lets him master high-tier magic instantly, but again, he will be stuck immobile for 3 hours after using it. High risk indeed. Finally, the Wind Blade Grimoire. This is the one. It allows the user to run like the wind. Better yet, the speed scales with his internal energy. He checks it all. Realization hits. The cloak is useless in daylight, and he can't risk being paralyzed by the pill or stone right now. But he knows if he can just survive for 6 hours, these rewards will make him unstoppable. For now, he decides to learn the Cloud Stride skill immediately. He needs to vanish from this spot as fast as possible. Skill learned. He starts tearing through the desert sand at a speed that would make a cheetah jealous. Suddenly, his senses tingle. Enemies, they are coming for him. They are still a good distance away, so he might be able to outrun the pack for now. But he has to stay sharp. He has no idea what kind of tracking techniques or movement skills they are using to hunt him. He needs a distraction. Siwon drops a treasure chest and vanishes, praying they fall for the lure. The duo spots the chest immediately, before they can even smell a trap. They discover the Tears of Lamia. It is a deadly combo, a Roman warrior and a mage. The warrior figures Siwon grabbed the loot and bolted as fast as his legs allowed. Without a second thought, they charge off in the direction they think he fled. But this was the plan all along. Seo-eun smirks, watching them swallow the bait whole. With only 30 minutes on the clock, Seo-eun realizes he needs to put some serious distance between them before time runs out. 30 minutes later, Seo-eun takes a breather and pulses his detection magic. To his horror, even more players are now on his tail. They are not on top of him yet, but he can feel them closing in fast. It makes him wonder if the entire server is gravitating toward the center of the map. Just then, a crimson light flares, and massive fireballs begin raining down from the heavens like meteors. Seo-eun moves like lightning, narrowly escaping before the fire turns the ground to ash. That is when the realization hits. His pursuers are gaining on him at an insane pace. He can only guess they are burning some high-level movement techniques. Suddenly, the duo bursts through the flames. Seo-eun freezes, they are charging him on horseback. With the gap closing in seconds, Seo-eun summons his shadow clones, but the hunters rip through them like wet paper. This only fuels their rage. Their bloodlust spikes as they lock onto their target. The warrior launches a spear with lethal force, catching Seo-eun off guard. He cannot believe they shattered his defenses that easily. The steel grazes his cheek, narrowly missing his skull. It thuds into the earth, and Seo-eun snatches it up. He focuses every ounce of his inner energy and hurls the spear right back. The warrior is right in the line of fire. The spear pierces his armor and sinks into his arm. He realizes instantly, Seo-eun is a monster. He warns his partner that they would be in serious trouble if this guy had backup. Seo-eun prepares for round 2 when a hail of arrows whistles in from his blind side. Seo-eun dances through the volley. But the arrows bring the horses down instead. Before he can even exhale, more arrows streak past his head, putting the mounts out of their misery. Seo-eun spins around to find a fresh squad of archers. He is trapped right in the center of a killing zone. He is in total shock. A pincer attack from 2 different teams is the absolute nightmare scenario. Both teams are circling like vultures, hesitant to make the first move and risk getting countered by the other. Sensing their doubt, Seo-eun decides to play with them. He mocks the archers openly, asking where that big energy went all of a sudden. He points out the obvious. With 3 teams clashing here, 2 of them are not leaving this place alive. Seo-eun bets that the archers want to use him as a temporary ally to wipe out the warrior duo first. Because if they kill Seo-eun now, they are stuck in a fair fight with no guarantee of coming out on top. They would much rather make it a 2 versus 1 massacre and then deal with him at the very end. Seo-eun starts cooking up a new plan, just waiting to see who is foolish enough to bite. This warrior starts talking big, telling the enemies to just step up and fight. But the mage tells him to cool it, because provoking their enemies right now isn't going to help them at all. Seo-eun realizes the guy is brave, but also pretty dense. Then, the archers fire back with their own deadly threat, vowing there is no way they're letting anyone from the kingdom leave alive. These archers appear to be elves, and they promise to spare Seo-eun's life if he just sides with them. Seeing the bad blood between these teams, Seo-eun realizes there's a whole lot happening in this universe that he still hasn't even discovered yet. Both teams are busy trying to persuade Seo-eun when he suddenly pulls out the circle stone. He tells the mage that he basically knows exactly how important this stone is. He also turns his attention to the elves, saying they could sell it for a fortune too. He shocks everyone by dropping the stone on the ground for his proposal. He tells them that whichever team wins the fight gets the stone. Seo-eun claims this is a much fairer way than him just picking a side. Once he has finished pitching his wild proposal, Seo-eun quickly leaps out of the way, leaving the 2 teams to tear each other apart. Deep down, Seo-eun is just using that stone as bait because no one can actually use it within 6 hours. He considers it a small price to pay to stall 4 people at once. Plus, whoever survives is going to come after him anyway, so he can just take the stone back then. Then, as he sprints across the desert sands, he realizes he still has 5 hours left of his location being broadcast on the map. Minutes later, he arrives at the center of the map. It turns out to be a massive and deep canyon. And he's worried some boss monster might actually crawl out from the darkness underneath him. Right then, that red light beams down on him again. And he realizes that 30 minutes have already flown by already. Before he knows it, the guys he ditched earlier catch up. The mage immediately blasts him with a wave of fire. But right before the flames hit, Siwoon activates the Phantom Step. He creates multiple clones to buy himself just enough time to make his escape. But they're all incinerated. Even Siwoon himself gets caught, and he screams out in pure pain. The explosion swells, absolutely destroying everything in the surrounding area. Once the fire clears, the warrior starts chewing out the mage, complaining they can't loot Siwoon because he's tumbled way down into that deep canyon. The mage admits that he probably should have held back a bit. Then, the mage suggests they move out before that pillar of light from earlier attracts a crowd. The warrior asks if they're really just leaving the loot, but he's already got a rare item himself. So he doesn't mind. Apparently, he owns the chainsword, a powerful blade that can be used like a whip, changing shape at the user's will to absolutely dominate anyone in long-range combat. The mage hears this and realizes he's on the losing end because he has 0 rare items yet. The mage tells his partner to wait while he goes down to check using levitation magic. The warrior isn't having it. They have no idea how much treasure is actually in his loot. He insists on coming along, but the mage asks how he actually expects to get down there. The stubborn warrior just says he will find a way down. In the end, he ties a rope around the mage's waist to climb down, while the mage uses his levitation magic. As they descend into the deep canyon heart, the mage casually threatens to cut the rope if the warrior accidentally falls. Panicking, the warrior begs him not to cut that rope, no matter what. But the mage just teases him, saying they will see about that. The warrior cannot believe his teammate would talk such trash at a time like this. See, when using a levitation spell, mages are left totally defenseless because they cannot use other spells while floating. It is incredibly risky. Only a few elite mages can actually cast other spells while they are floating. They keep moving down, and the mage mentions that they have almost reached the bottom of the canyon. But the warrior snaps back, yelling that it is easy for him to say since he is not the one falling. The mage reminds him that he was the one who insisted on coming along. Suddenly, the rope goes slack. Our warrior screams out in pure terror. He clings to the wall, yelling at the mage for such a dangerous stunt. But when he turns around, he finds his partner has been brutally murdered. The mage's upper body has been severed, since he is no longer of any use. The warrior cuts the line, and the mage's body plunges into the water below. That is when the warrior realizes there is a massive lake below them. He cannot believe they were being so careful with such a safe landing below. Without a second thought, he leaps right into the water below him. He pops his head out of the water, feeling excited. But then, you and I see the realization hit him. He never even once asked who killed his freaking partner. Before he even realizes, Siwoon is already on him while his body is still under the water. The warrior is stunned to see that Siwoon is actually still alive. Siwoon charges in with a bone-crushing strike, but this warrior is not about to just sit and die. He activates his chain weapon, firing it from long range in an attempt to take Siwoon's head. However, Siwoon grabs the sword and lets it wrap around his arm, ignoring the deep cuts to his own flesh. Then, Siwoon grabs the warrior's head with his powerful left arm, telling him that he should not have come if he was not ready to die. With raw force, he shoves his head underwater and releases his inner energy to shatter the warrior's skull. The kill feed updates immediately as Siwoon wipes out the entire team right now. After this, he drags their chests out of the water. Man, these things are heavy. Siwoon realizes he should probably avoid fighting underwater in the near future. Looking through the loot, he finds a fire orb that launches a sealed fire spell toward its target. He also finds the Phoenix Strike, which is a powerful Circle 4 technique. This releases a massive phoenix that grows larger as it nears the target. Since the circle requirement is so high, he realizes that mage was actually quite strong. He is quite sure that it would have been absolute hell if he had not taken the mage out while defenseless. Sehun gladly claims the chainsword, even without any swordsmanship skills yet. Suddenly, he senses other players nearby and vanishes before they can find him. The players arrive at the scene, only to find absolutely nothing of value left for us. But Sehun suddenly ghosts right behind them. One fatal punch is all it takes for a kill. Thanks to that cloak of hiding, his presence was zero. Just like that, he finishes off the entire team. Fast forward a few hours, and his position hits the map. Sehun spent that time stacking bodies and hunting players. Now only 101 remain. Suddenly, those elven archers from earlier decide to reappear. Too bad for them, Sehun deletes them from the game before they can even blink. With the 6-hour handicap finally over, he pulls out the 4-circle stone and the red cloud pill. Now, he just needs the perfect spot to boost his stats. Once he finds the ideal location, he settles in. Using both items will take 6 hours, but honestly, he was overdue for a solid rest anyway. He starts the process by consuming the powerful elixir first. 6 grueling hours later, both items have been fully absorbed. Stepping out of the dark cave, he can feel his body already sinking with that massive power boost. It is officially nightfall now, meaning the darkness is about to become his greatest ally. A quick status check confirms it. His numbers have definitely seen a nice jump. Still, it doesn't compare to the energy surge he got from absorbing Nam's essence. He spots more players in the distance and wastes 0 time. To him, every player is just fuel for his own growth. He hunts relentlessly until the sun comes up. Sehun keeps the pressure on before checking the current survivor count. Talk about a shock. The player count has plummeted to 42 by just day 3. The system announces a major update. Locations for boss monsters and buff monsters are now live on the screen. Basically, purple zones mark the deadly bosses, while the red areas highlight those juicy monster buffs. Since a buff monster is nearby, Sehun decides to go investigate. It is a risky detour, but he is not about to let a potential power-up just slip away. He reaches the destination a few moments later. His heart nearly stops when he sees the buff monster is actually a massive, terrifying serpent. Looking at the scale of this thing, it would take at least 6 full teams to even stand a chance. Before he can retreat, the beast opens its eyes and locks onto his exact position. The snake lets out a violent, terrifying hiss. He is paralyzed with pure terror as the massive predator slithers dangerously close. He simply cannot bring himself to move. Out of nowhere, the snake calms down and slides back into its hibernation pose. Sehun wonders why the creature suddenly stopped. He figures it probably only aggroes if you step inside a very specific range. Man, that was close. If that snake had attacked first, the players wouldn't have stood a single chance. Sehun carefully backs away, desperately trying to convince himself that he wasn't actually terrified. Minutes pass. He hasn't seen a soul. It is wild that players are already hiding and playing it safe on day 3. He suddenly senses a presence in the trees and levels the forest with a powerful wind strike. Just then, a child's voice echoes from the distance, so he heads over to check it out. To his surprise, it is just a scared kid hiding in the brush. He immediately apologizes for the fright. The poor kid is in rough shape, looking completely battered and exhausted. He is still asking the boy his age when a partner suddenly lunges from behind, swinging a massive sword. Sehun sidesteps the strike, then launches a palm blast that sends the guy flying into the distance. The loser coughs up blood as he slams hard into a nearby tree. Sehun instantly figures out that this guy used a kid as bait just to lower his opponent's guard before striking from the shadows. He calls the man the lowest piece of garbage he's ever encountered in this game. The boy's body is covered in wounds barely kept closed by those healing scrolls. The villain admits Sehun is clearly the stronger one here, but he figures he'll gain that same power once he manages to kill him. He fires a massive flame orb that's designed to explode on contact. The moment it hits our hero, it erupts into a massive wall of fire. Without even checking the aftermath, the guy starts bragging about how powerful his little orb is. Suddenly, the smoke clears, Seo-eun's voice cuts through the air, mocking the loser for relying on items to win. Turns out his magic resistance is just too high for a weak orb like that to hurt him. The player's jaw drops. He can't believe Seo-eun just tanked a Circle 3 spell without a scratch. Before he can keep yapping, Seo-eun slams his head back into the tree. He wants him to feel the same pain the kid did. He digs his fingers into his skull, crushing his head against the rough bark. The little kid panics, clutching his head in terror. He's convinced that he's the next one to go. But then Seo-eun speaks calmly, simply asking the young boy for his name. The boy says his name is Lyall. Seo-eun is genuinely disturbed that a child was pulled into this game. He asks if this is his first match, and the kid says yes. Apparently, he was just walking home when he was suddenly warped into this nightmare world. Seo-eun can't just leave him like this, so he decides it's time to lend a helping hand. Seo-eun pulls out some jerky and hands the boy a rare Circle 4 magic stone as well. He explains that since he's already a Circle 4 mage, he has no use for it. That stone should keep him safe, especially since most of the heavy hitters are already out of the picture. As he walks away, Seo-eun tells Lyall that good things happen to those who survive. You and I know he's right. Tears of joy fall as Lyall bows deeply, thanking the stranger for saving his young life. Deep down, Seo-eun knows he was just like this kid 2 months ago before he met the old man, Dutch. He would have been wiped out early if it wasn't for that mentor's help. Just then, a notification pops up. A duo named Hayami Ren and Drift have abandoned the boss fight. He recognizes that name immediately. Ren is that same high school kid he spotted back in the lobby. Since they just finished a huge fight, he's betting that they're both completely drained of energy. It's the perfect time to ambush them and end this before they can recover. He follows the map straight to the boss monster's lair. But to his shock, the boss is already dead, and Ren's duo isn't the only group there. A crowd of players has gathered, all of them shouting about some deal they made regarding the fight in this boss zone. One warrior screams that they had a plan before the boss fell. But Drift swooped in and stole the final hit. Drift is done with the noise. He dares them all to come at him at once. Things are heating up. Ren, hood pulled up, starts berating the rest of his team, telling them that they have absolutely zero loyalty left in their bodies. A woman dressed in traditional native clothing steps out to confront him. She warns Ren not to insult the warriors who stayed by his side. According to her, the only thing that truly matters now is the spoils from defeating that boss monster. She asks if Ren is actually planning to share the rewards. Ren just scoffs, claiming there isn't enough to go around, so no one's getting a single piece. Well, that settles it. The lady officially declares war right then and there. She is ready to kill every last one of them to claim the prize. Siwon is watching the whole drama from his hiding spot, wishing he had some popcorn to enjoy this absolute mess unfolding right in front of him. Suddenly, Ren yells out something bizarre, demanding someone show themselves. Seo-eun is confused until the guy actually calls out his name. He tells him to stop hiding, because he's positive he can hear him lurking nearby. Ren claims hiding is pointless now, and Seo-eun can't get over just how low this guy is willing to sink. Ren reaches into his storage, lying that Seo-eun promised to help if they just handed over the boss's heart. He threatens to give the heart to the enemies if he doesn't show up right this second. Seo-eun doesn't even budge from his spot. He knows this guy is just using his name as a massive bluff to scare the other players. Then, Ren pulls out a glowing bag, claiming it's the legendary heart of the ant. Seo-eun realizes Ren is manipulating the crowd by using his reputation against them, knowing they've all seen his name on the kill feed. He's totally milking his identity. Ren drops the bag, telling Seo-eun he's free to slaughter the players however he likes. The others are stunned that Ren would just dump something so valuable on the ground. But the lady in the native dress tells her team to stay calm. They'll split the loot fairly. Before they know it, Drift and Ren bolt. The remaining players decide to check the contents of the bag first. A massive argument breaks out among the greedy group. However, the lady is the first one to charge after Ren. Seeing how disorganized they are, Seo-woon decides to join the fun. Meanwhile, as Ren and Drift sprint through the forest, Drift asks how long this marathon is going to last, because running definitely isn't his style. He tells Ren his body is itching for a real fight, so Ren decides to get serious. Turns out, the lady and several players are right on their heels. Ren tells Drift to wait for his signal. They're about to switch to that counterattack formation they planned earlier. Drift is thrilled to hear that. He's been waiting for this moment. Moments later, Ren leaps onto a high tree branch and comes to a dead stop. He tells Drift to handle that annoying lady while he deals with the rest of the trash. Ren then unleashes a massive blast of lightning magic at the crew. Those caught in the blast scream out in agony. Even the lady is shocked. Ren wiped out half their force with a single, powerful spell. She dives behind a tree, but Drift is already there, swinging his heavy weapon. She manages to block the strike with an ice shield. She leaps back to dodge another blow, and Drift realizes his hammer is being slowed by frost. Drift curses her out for using such a frustrating and annoying technique. Drift finally breaks his chains and lunges straight at the lady. But she counters with high-tier ice magic, shattering his fingers instantly. Seeing his friend's life on the line, Ren blasts her with lightning. Unfazed, she grounds the entire bolt, proving she's on a different level. She can't help but gloat. She reveals that by shielding her entire body with inner energy and controlling her chi flow, she can simply dump the electricity straight into the earth. It takes elite energy control, but for her, easy. It's total child's play for someone of her caliber. Meanwhile, Drift is just writhing in pure agony. She promises Ren that his life is over, because she's already analyzed every single move he has. She pounces, and Ren responds with yet another massive lightning strike. She just laughs, grounding the bolt into a nearby tree like it was nothing at all. Ren's losing it. He's never seen anyone nullify high-level magic with such casual ease before. With her closing the gap fast, Ren realizes this fight is about to turn into a bloody, close-quarters brawl. He reaches into his inventory, pulls a sword, and swings it with everything he's got. She catches the blade just in time. But she's stunned, since when can a mage fight like a seasoned martial artist? Ren shoves her back, and suddenly a system alert pops up. Her partner was just killed by Seo-woon. That distraction is all he needs. Ren lunges forward and drives his sword deep into her. She staggers back in pure shock, desperately clutching her bleeding chest. Ren tells her to just give up and die quietly, because her journey ends right here. She starts rambling about how her partner could never have been beaten by Seo-woon. Before she can finish that sentence, an arrow whistles through the air and pierces her skull. The power is insane. The arrow punches through her and clean through Drift's heavy armor, leaving them both absolutely speechless. Finally, Seo-woon steps out from the shadows. He tells Ren he's got a lot of nerve, using his name like some cheap tool. Ren's blood runs cold. He's standing face to face with the legendary, infamous Seo-woon himself. Seo-woon asks if he really thought there wouldn't be consequences for dragging him into this mess. Seo-woon levels his bow at Ren's throat, demanding he hand over the ant's heart immediately. Ren tries to lie, claiming he already gave it away to use as a decoy. But before the lie can even finish, Seo-woon lets loose an arrow that grazes Ren's face, tearing flesh and drawing blood. Seo-woon warns him not to play games. He already knew that whole trick was just to enchant a completely empty bag. Look, Seo-woon isn't here to debate. He's got no time for pathetic arguments. He'll just slaughter Ren and his partner and check their corpses for the heart themselves. Overconfident as always, Drift lunges straight at Seo-woon. He yells at him not to underestimate a proud warrior of Thistle. He mocks Seo-woon, claiming a mere bow user is nothing compared to a real fighter like himself. But Seo-woon just blurs, dodges the strike, and counters with a move that tears Drift's head clean off. Seo-woon's actually unimpressed. How can someone talk that much trash and be so incredibly weak? Ren's panicking now. He can't believe what he just saw. Stuttering, he asks Seo-woon just how many times he's actually been invited to this game. Seo-woon keeps that bow leveled at his head and calmly reveals this is only his second time. The second Ren hears that, he assumes Seo-woon's just some lucky noob and starts screaming at him. He tells him to stop being cocky, since it is only his second time out. The guy lets loose a massive lightning blast. But Seo-woon puts an arrow through his skull before the lightning even gets close. Just like that, Seo-woon wipes out Ren and his partner. Shockingly, Ren provides way more inner energy for him to absorb than Drift did. He figured Ren was just a simple mage, but judging by the loot, he had some solid martial arts training too. While he is busy looting the chest, Seo-woon thinks the odds of meeting another person from his world are pretty low. But then, he spots something incredible inside Ren's belongings. A golden weapon box. This is a top-tier rare item that only drops from elite monsters, granting one random special weapon upon opening. Seo-woon is totally stunned. This is an insanely rare drop by any standard. He wastes no time popping it open. And as the box glows, his hopes for an epic weapon hit an all-time high. However, reality hits. He just pulled a weapon with a name as weird as Selfish Hummet. In his mind, he was already wielding a golden bow or a legendary sword, but instead, he got stuck with a dud. Seo-woon concludes his luck has finally run out for today. But as he goes to stash it away, the thing actually starts talking. The ball shifts into its true form, revealing the legendary weapon spirit known as Elsius Hammet. Unimpressed, Seo-woon just asks the floating spirit if it plans on fighting his battles for him. Actually, Hammet explains the situation. He can transform into literally any weapon Seo-woon can imagine. Deep down, Hammet is shocked. Most people would be screaming or crying with joy after obtaining a high-level spirit like him. He asks Seo-woon what his preferred weapon of choice is, promising to become the ultimate tool and surpass everything he has ever used. Seo-woon just says he does not really use weapons, making Hammet think he is some kind of bare-handed brawler. Since that is the case, Hammet shifts into a heavy gauntlet, swearing he can now shatter anything in their path. But Seo-woon shuts him down. It is too heavy and would just get in the way while he is trying to draw his bow. Since he is clearly not a fan, Hammet adjusts, changing into a flexible dark gauntlet built purely for speed and movement. Even so, Seo-woon is still not impressed. And Hammet finally snaps, yelling at his new master for being way too picky. Seo-woon decides the spirit's best place is locked away in his inventory subspace. But Hammet argues he is too special to be handled so carelessly. He demands that Seo-woon tell him what kind of weapon he actually wants. Seo-woon takes a moment to think it over, deciding he wants something incredibly durable but simple. Like a piece of cloth, he can use however he pleases. Hammet cannot believe his master is asking him to become a mere rag. Seo-woon just tells him to head back to the inventory if he has got a problem with that. Left with no choice, Hammet obeys and transforms into a simple cloth sleeve. Surprisingly, this is exactly what Seo-woon wanted. But Hammet is definitely feeling disrespected. Seo-woon wraps the sleeve around his arm, telling Hammet to be a good boy so they can actually get along. Hammet begrudgingly accepts his new life as a piece of clothing, as long as it makes Seo-woon happy. Hammet reveals he has even more tricks up his sleeve, leaving Seo-woon completely stunned by the news. A magical roulette wheel appears, and Hammet explains that our main character gets a special chance. He can spin it once daily to cast any spell, no matter the mana circle level. Some of these spells are game changers, like a revive ability that can literally cheat death itself. Seo-woon is floored. A spell that brings you back to life, in a survival game, that is a total cheat. But there is a catch, he has to actually land on it first. Seo-woon asks to spin immediately, and Hammet gives him the green light to go. Suddenly, the mood shifts. Hammet senses something dark and dangerous nearby. An overwhelming killing intent is locking onto Seo-woon from somewhere in the shadows. Seo-woon wonders if survivors from the previous fight have finally tracked him down. He cannot feel any energy, so he asks Hammet if he can pinpoint where the threat is coming from. Hammet cannot get a lock on the exact location, but his instincts are screaming. Seo-woon pulls out the airboard he looted from that mage earlier to prepare. Apparently, This board is a high-tier travel tool used by elite mages and witches. Hammett snaps at him, yelling that now is definitely not the time for a history lesson. Si-woon decides to lower his guard on purpose, hoping to bait the stalker into showing their face. Hammett thinks it is risky. The risk is insane, but it might work. Si-woon is shocked when he realizes Hammett is reading his thoughts. Hammett reminds him they are bound, mind and soul now. Their consciousness is shared. But before he can even mount the board, a lethal combo of arrows and fireballs slams into him. He cries out in pain as the impact sends him crashing down. That is when the archer reveals himself. He is not alone. A mage appears from the opposite side, flanking him. She notices something odd and tells the archer that the kill notification has not even appeared yet. The mage warns that Si-woon must still be alive, so they need to end this right now. The archer tells her to scan the area for any hidden allies while he finishes the job. He stalks closer to Si-woon, aiming a final shot directly at the young man's head. Suddenly, Si-woon looks up. He reaches out and catches the arrow with his bare hand. The archer is terrified. Si-woon just glares at him and crushes the arrow into splinters with a brutal grip. Si-woon gives a nod to Hammett, acknowledging that his defense is pretty solid. The archer scrambles back, screaming for the mage to hit Si-woon with every spell she has. But Si-woon is faster. He lunges forward, pulling his lethal chainsword out of thin air. Before the archer can even blink, the jagged blade has already torn through his throat. As the light fades, he wonders if Si-woon was actually some kind of elite long-range expert. His partner sees the slaughter and panics. She hops on her broom and flies off. Si-woon just watches in disbelief. It is his first time seeing an escape like that. Hammett explains that this is standard procedure for high-level witches in deep trouble. He then asks Si-woon if he is just going to let her escape. Si-woon shrugs it off. She did not look strong enough to be worth the chase anyway. After picking up the loot, he figures the game will be over in 2 days since there are so few players left standing. However, he soon regrets that thought because the game lasted until day 20 without a single player dying. After camping in a tree and almost dying of boredom, Si-woon grabs his airboard and Hammett asks if he is heading out for another patrol. He replies that he has no choice. The players are hiding, so he has to find them himself. He remembers the hunt being easy until day 5, but after that mark, finding even one single player became a total mission impossible. He has basically spent the last 10 days scouring every corner for anyone still hiding. Si-woon asks Hammett if he can sense anything, since manual tracking is getting exhausting. Hammett says he feels nothing. Everything is quiet, just like the day before. Si-woon mocks him, saying he thought he actually got himself a good radar. But it turns out Hammett is pretty much useless. In his defense, Hammett explains that unless the enemy gives off bloodlust, there is nothing he can do. Even though the map area had shrunk to a sixth of its original size, there were still plenty of places to hide. Hammett tells Si-woon to stop searching so hard because the players will eventually show up. Si-woon tells Hammett to actually think about their current situation. He points out that the kill feed is full of his name. If it becomes an 11 versus 1 fight, he is done for. Si-woon explains he has to thin out the survivors now to prevent that nightmare scenario. Hearing this, Hammett tells Si-woon that instead of wasting time like this, he should hunt down the black argon. Si-woon is confused and asks exactly what that is. Hammett reveals it is the buff monster in the area, and Si-woon totally freaks out hearing what he is suggesting. Si-woon tells him there is no way he is taking down that giant snake alone, but Hammett urges him to try, insisting that there is no way he would actually lose to a snake. Si-woon asks again if he really has what it takes to beat the snake, and Hammett promises him he can. Moments later, we see the players fighting the giant snake. It looks like they have nearly taken it down after putting in so much effort. Suddenly, they sense Si-woon approaching their location, and the players start panicking immediately. They aim to finish the snake before Si-woon catches them in the act. Hammett warns Si-woon that the player's mana detection has already picked him up, and Si-woon says he knows. Si-woon leaps, into range, saying he is sure they are panicking now that they know he is in the area. The moment he arrives, he realizes all the remaining players are on the scene. He wonders why he is always the one being ganged up on. So he reaches into his storage space to whip out his bow. One player is busy slashing the snake when Soon fires a lightning arrow right into his back. The shock is so intense that it leaves him wide open for the snake to finish him. The players freak out because they know Soon is the one finally attacking them. But they cannot figure out exactly where that arrow came from just yet. One of them shouts that they have to forget the hunt for now because if this continues, they are going to get wiped out completely. Just then, Soon sees an arrow coming his way, forcing him to change his position. The leader tells their mages to cast detection magic and focus on killing Soon instead. Soon realizes they have. Our main character is the sharpest one here. He realizes it is time to end this. He draws his bow to the limit, pouring every ounce of mana into the shot. The arrow flies straight and true, burying itself deep in the snake's head. It screams in agony as lightning surges through its scales, wiping out the last of its health bar. The players are stunned. The monster is down, and everyone is wondering which team snagged the final blow. But then, the notification drops. Seo-woon was the one who finished the job, securing the kill. He gets a massive 30% stat boost that lasts for 10 whole days. Instead of running, the mob decides to jump him. They think 30% is nothing, and they can easily crush him with numbers. Seo-woon doesn't hesitate. He drops from the treetops to meet them head-on. Total chaos breaks out as the groups clash with everything they have got. His opening strike is blocked. He immediately realizes their defensive barrier has to go if he wants to win. He throws a devastating punch. The mage dies instantly. That is one down and the first official kill on Seo-woon's board. As they swarm him, he is ditching his cloak. In a fight like this, it is just dead weight. The group is acting cautious. They are circling him like vultures, waiting to see exactly how strong he really is. Seo-woon locks on. That barrier-less mage is the weak link and his very first target. No more waiting. He lunges through the air, diving straight for the defenseless mage. The lead warrior spots the move and screams at his team to protect the mage no matter the cost. They snap back at him. They only agreed to listen because they have a common enemy. After Seo-woon is dead, the truce is over. Seo-woon is actually surprised. Usually, these guys would be stabbing each other in the back, not working together. Before he can reach the target, they form a human wall to block his path forward. It isn't enough. Seo-woon puts everything into his strike and shatters their defensive line. The warrior's shield breaks, but a new threat appears instantly. A martial artist swings a sword at his back from behind. It is a flexible blade that stretches like a whip. He barely dodges it before deciding to counterattack. He finds the perfect opening and shoves the guy back with a powerful, concentrated burst of force. But honestly, their coordination is actually pretty impressive. They are keeping him on his toes. Suddenly, Seo-woon finds himself pinned between two of their deadliest fighters. They are closing in for the kill. He needs a plan, and he needs it fast. He shouts to Hammett, telling the system to transform into the perfect defense. Hammett shifts instantly, turning into a heavy shield that absorbs the worst of the impact. But his face still gets cut. That small opening is all he needs. He hammers a punch into the big guy's skull, ending him right there. He does a quick count, 8 targets left. The odds are getting better. But one mage isn't backing down. She tells him they knew he was dangerous and they came prepared for this. They actually have a special trap designed just for him. The blonde mage smirks, telling him she has been waiting for this exact moment to strike. Suddenly, a massive spell hits him square in the chest. The moment it connects, he knows he is in serious trouble now. It is a debuff. His stats just plummeted by 40% for the next 30 minutes. He curses himself. He should have taken that woman out first when he had the chance. Now, weakened and surrounded, the real struggle begins. The players realize it is finally time to swarm him. He looks weaker than ever before. But Seo-woon isn't about to just lie down and let them have their fun. He lashes out with a brutal kick to the chest. The The guy barely blocks it. And in that moment, he feels the mage's curse working. Now the pack is hungry. They charge, and Seo-woon tries to leap away to catch his breath. But a massive flame blast strikes him midair, slamming him down to the ground. Seo-woon realizes he is still alive only because his 30% snake buff is barely fighting off that 40% debuff. That massive fire attack. It would have turned him to ash instantly if not for that snake buff. There is only one way out: kill the witch and break the spell. The players are actually impressed he survived that hit, but they are not stopping. The hunt is still on. They are closing in for the kill. Seo-woon curses his luck. He should have taken out the leader with a surprise strike earlier. Then, suddenly, he sees Lyall just standing there, doing absolutely nothing. Another mage fires a blast that knocks Seo-woon flat on his back. He is pinned down, struggling just to draw a single breath. Just when things look hopeless, a stone spike erupts from below, crushing him down. The melee fighters rush in, ready for the finish. Right then, Lyall moves. He strikes the witch with a wind blade, killing her instantly. And just like that, the curse vanishes. Seo-woon feels his strength return and dodges the incoming attack. He lunges forward, punching a literal hole through the leader's chest. The guy's face is pure shock. This was not possible. Seo-woon looks back. It was all Lyall. Dying, Lyall whispers for him to go win the game. A player stabs Lyall in the back, ending him forever. Watching Lyall fall, a cold, violent rage takes over Seo-woon. He had only given the kid some items. He never thought he would care this much. He charges the players. Pure fury drives him. They actually dared to kill a child. His mind is a storm of white-hot anger. Everyone dies, every single one. He only snaps out of it when the victory message appears. Winner him, but then he feels the massive amount of Kai nearby, waiting. He reaches for the Kai and the loot chests. But the system blocks him. Game over. He has earned 240 coins and most kills. But wait. Another 100 coins for the bonus, plus 15 more for his top 5 streak. 355 coins total. That is absolutely massive. Way better than before. Hammett starts bragging, taking all of the credit. Seo-woon admits the guy was useful, but honestly, he was pretty mid. Apparently, Hammett carries a price tag of 100 coins. And Hammett is practically begging Seo-woon for the purchase. But Seo-woon is not biting. 100 coins for this guy? Total ripoff. Hammett, naturally, thinks he is worth every penny. He claims that snagging a magnificent being like himself for only 100 coins is a total steal. Seo-woon is not sold on it. He knows other items are more useful, like that 70-coin cloak of hiding. In fact, he is seriously considering rolling the dice on the golden weapon box instead. Suddenly, the system chimes in. Top 5 players get a roulette spin, and he is on that list. However, as the champion, he actually gets to spin the wheel 3 separate times. Seo-woon hopes for a lucky first attempt, while Hammett is praying he gets pulled from that box instead. Just like before, he pulls Escrow's necklace on his very first try. But he does not sweat it too much. It is not like it is a total loss. Seo-woon starts the second spin, and Hammett becomes the happiest guy on earth when he is pulled on the next draw. Hammett celebrates the win like a total madman, relieved that he never has to go back inside that annoying box again. Seo-woon, meanwhile, is a bit disappointed since he was really gunning for that weapon box instead. Still, it is a decent trade since it saves him from spending 100 coins. On the third spin, he snags a fragmented secret tome, an item valued at 60 coins. Seo-woon is surprised by the high price, but wonders how many pieces he needs to complete the set. After looking over every option carefully, Seo-woon decides to purchase a 4-circle stone, an Iceland spellbook, and a vital essence pill, Takar's ring, and the cloak of hiding. He ends his spree with 49 coins left, which will surely be useful later on. Once he finalizes his choices, the system wishes him luck in the coming trials before transporting him back to reality. Seo-woon reappears in the exact park where he first vanished. To his horror, 2 hikers are standing right there. They look completely disgusted when they see just how bloodied he is. To try and keep them calm, Sehun lies, claiming it is just fake blood because a movie is being filmed nearby. Deep down, he really hopes this does not happen every single time. It is going to get annoying fast. Sehun finally makes it back home. Even though this was only his second game, the massive increase in his strength is already undeniable. Sehun peels off his ruined jersey and tosses it in the trash, mourning his favorite piece of clothing. Moving quickly, he sits in the lotus position and pulls out the 4-circle stone. 6 hours later, he has finished using the 4-circle stone and the red cloud pill. Just like the last time, his room starts heating up like a boiling sauna. Sehun eventually gets to his feet, feeling totally refreshed and fully recharged. He can feel his mana and base stats hitting new heights. But he decides to check the numbers before heading out to find some food. He checks his info window and is stunned. His inner energy and mana levels have absolutely skyrocketed. He can hardly believe his growth after just 2 games. He is genuinely excited to see where his power goes next. He is just about to grab some food when Hammett yells, demanding to know how long he intends to ignore him. Sehun reaches into his storage to pull him out, telling the loudmouth to keep his voice down. Hammett asks why he is being stuck in storage. Sehun just tells him he has got great skills, but honestly, the guy is way too noisy. Hammett is offended, claiming there is nothing noisy about a weapon as legendary and rare as he is. Sehun completely ignores the weapon. Instead, he checks his phone, asking his digital assistant to find a nearby Chinese spot. Hammett is absolutely floored when he hears the phone talking back. Sehun casually explains that in this world, talking tools are not exactly a miracle. Everyone has one. He crushes Hammett's ego, making it clear the weapon is not as special as he thinks. Hammett argues that talking is not the point. He is a masterpiece of destruction. It is his sheer power as a weapon that matters most. Sehun just keeps talking. He mentions he cannot even have Hammett become a sword because out here in reality, you actually need a legal permit for that. Now, he is wondering what to do with his loud companion. Hammett suggests shifting into a simple sleeve around his hand, just like they did back inside the game world. But Sehun is not biting. Walking around with cloth wrapped over his hand looks weird, and he is not looking to stand out today. Hammett tries becoming a robe instead, hoping this new look might actually impress him. But Sehun tells him that is even worse. Hard pass. Before being thrown back into subspace, the weapon quickly shifts into a small, sleek necklace. Sehun admits the necklace works, and Hammett finally lets out a massive sigh of relief. Close call. Plus, get this. The necklace can actually detect killing intent. Right then, Sehun's food delivery finally arrives at the door. A few moments later, Sehun finishes his meal. Man, he is just glad to taste real food again. That dried meat diet from the game was getting old. Hammett asks if the meal was actually good. Sehun shuts him down immediately. Since the weapon cannot eat, there is no reason for him to be curious. Hammett calls him a heartless master, but Sehun is already on his feet. Time to head back outside. When Hammett asks where they are heading, Sehun reminds him that since he is actually coming along, he will find out soon enough. No spoilers. Sehun makes his way back to his old haunt, the local internet cafe. The attendant is shocked to see him after so long, wondering if he had gone missing or something happened. He just says he has been busy with school prep and only stopped by to catch a breath. The attendant then mentions a loyal ground tournament happening next week, asking our main character if he is planning to show off his skills. But Sehun is over it. He has found a way more interesting game to occupy his time. As he settles in front of the computer screen, Hammett asks what this loyal ground is. Sehun calls it a low-budget knockoff compared to the intensity of Cloud Survival. There is just no way a regular game can satisfy him after living through the real deal inside the tower. He is actually here to track down Ren, that high school kid he met in-game. He needs to see if he can find a match in the real world. He is certain other players exist out here, hidden among the regular crowds. And where there are players, attention seekers usually follow. From what he has gathered, these survivors seem to be communicating through the dark web. That is exactly where he starts digging, navigating past some pretty sketchy links and ads. Suddenly, he finds it, the survivor's message board. Now things are getting interesting. Right after clicking the icon, a massive prompt pops up asking him one simple thing: is he a survivor? Beads of sweat roll down his face. He hits yes, feeling a sudden chill about what he is actually walking into. Let's take a look. The site design looks exactly like the game's actual interface. It is clear now, whoever built this place is definitely an OG Cloyd survival veteran. Suddenly, a chat box warns him to get lost immediately if he is just here to play around. It is just a bot, obviously meant to filter out any kids or fake users trying to sneak in. He wonders if there is some kind of secret code or specific pattern he needs. Si-hoon just asks the bot if it already knows the password. The bot tells him to beat it and drops a bombshell. It already knows exactly where he is located. Then the bot warns him. He shouldn't be browsing the dark web if he can't even protect his own digital footprint. Si-hoon is totally stunned by how these hackers operate, but the bot just tells him to shut the computer. He doesn't budge, making the chatbot ask him if he's actually not scared of them. Not at all. He is just getting impatient because he still doesn't have the access he needs. Fine then, the bot tells him to prove he is a real survivor. He's confused on how to prove it, but then a strange image suddenly flickers onto his screen. It's just a scattered puzzle, but as soon as he sees it, he recognizes it instantly. That's the statue from right inside the game. You and I can probably feel his frustration. He's annoyed they didn't just keep things simple from the beginning. He solves the puzzle quickly. Success! The authentication goes through, and he's officially welcomed into this hidden community of survivors. The chat then asks him exactly how many runs he's completed in the game. Si-hoon stays quiet, telling them that information is a bit too personal. The bot actually agrees. It gives him a unique identification and promises their elite hackers will keep him safe 24/7 while online. He snaps a photo of the login info so he won't lose it for next time. Once he is finally logged in, he starts browsing around to see where he should even begin. He goes for the beginner tips first, and from the very first one, he learns that global governments are desperately trying to round up and control every single ability user. Rule number 1, do not ever reveal your powers in public, no matter what happens. Now for tip 2. He is definitely not alone. The number of players is exploding more and more every single day. Basically, he shouldn't get cocky or think he's the only special one. Even worse, there are private organizations backed by the state hunting down new players. They are willing to use any means necessary to stop ability users from causing absolute chaos in society. You and I would freak out too. This is literally an active death threat. Furthermore, he's also told that if he wants to sell items he scavenged from the game. There are plenty of broker sites and rich buyers across the dark web who are ready to pay him directly. He can use these marketplaces to turn his loot into cold, hard cash. Si-hoon realizes he might actually be able to make a very comfortable living doing this. He decides to dive into the market site and check the value of his gear. Scrolling through the various forums, he finds a massive amount of items he has never even laid eyes on before. One item catches his eye, the rare witch's elixir. It is selling for 20 million won, and the buyer is on a tight deadline. Si-hoon thinks he has seen everything until he spots an item bidding for 100 million. It is an exclusive cord ointment that actually guarantees hair growth on any applied area. Our main character decides to keep that in mind, just in case. Looking at the forums, you and I can finally see why everyone is obsessed with run counts. There are bodyguard requests for players with over 10 runs, promising them millions every month. Those with over 30 runs can basically name their own price. Basically, higher run counts mean higher status. While scrolling, he finds a wild article about a 13th run hybrid mage who got wrecked by a second run player. He checks the author and sees it was written by someone calling themselves the high school mage. People reading the viral article just do not want to believe it, and they start trash-talking Seo-woon. Seo-woon decides to message the guy directly since he seems active on the forum. The guy responds, asking if it is true that it was only his second run. Seo-woon confirms it. Honestly, our hero has to ask if being on a second run is really that big of a deal. Ren replies that it is a massive deal because it is definitely not normal for a player to be this overpowered after only 2 runs. Ren admits he thought Seo-woon was a fixed player, which leaves Seo-woon wondering what that even means. The moment he asks that question, Ren realizes that Seo-woon is a total noob at the game. He explains that everyone starts as a free player, but certain conditions let them rank up. That is how you become a prestigious fixed player. Apparently, tutorials only happen once for free players, but most people miss them entirely. It actually took Ren until his 13th run to notice. Ren then asks if they can swap contact info. He promises there is a lot he can teach Seo-woon since he is still a beginner. Seo-woon is hesitant, wondering if this guy just wants to settle their in-game score in real life. He tells Ren he can't trust him after that request, but Ren assures him he won't regret it because he is going to rank up as a fixed player soon, and he'll need a team. A fixed team is a must-have for the higher levels. Seo-woon is still totally confused about fixed teams, so Ren suggests they meet up in person. A meeting point is set, and Ren promises to be there within the hour. As he heads out, Seo-woon wonders if meeting this stranger was actually a good idea. An hour later, he arrives at the spot just as a guy on a bike roars up. The bike is so loud that everyone around assumes he is just trying to show off. With a helmet covering his face, nobody has any idea who he really is. Seo-woon sees him and is actually impressed by the guts it takes to ride through this crowd. He figures the guy is some rich kid, but then the biker suddenly turns toward him. Our main character freezes up, wondering if he had been staring a little too long. Just then, the guy pulls off his helmet to reveal he is actually Ren, telling Seo-woon that he is the high school mage he came to meet. It is a bit awkward, being the first time he's met someone he actually killed in-game. Plus, he can't help but notice the guy has a seriously punchable face. The two sit down in a cafe, and Seo-woon asks why a physical meeting was even necessary. Alright, Ren doesn't beat around the bush, straight up asking Seo-woon to join his team. Seo-woon remembers him mentioning this in chat, but he is still fuzzy on what that actually looks like. Ren keeps pushing, reminding Seo-woon that as free players, they are both solo agents. Seeing how loud he is, Seo-woon tells him to pipe down before some random person overhears their private talk. But Ren isn't worried. He's got a special pendant on that keeps everything private. Apparently, it creates a soundproof zone where only they can hear the conversation. Seo-woon is shocked, asking if Ren actually brought a game item into reality. Ren explains it's custom-made. A real-world player who's also an expert alchemist crafted it. It hits Ren all over again. Seo-woon really is a total newbie in this game. Ren pivots, asking Seo-woon how his recent match results actually turned out. Seo-woon drops the bomb. Second place on his first run, then first on his second match. Ren is absolutely floored here. He's only seen back-to-back wins on the forums, but Seo-woon just shrugs it off as luck. Ren admits he's only hit the top 5 once, and has almost been forced to retire several times. Seo-woon asks what retirement means, and Ren clarifies that it basically means permanent elimination. If a player fails them, they're banned for life. They can never log into the game ever again. Ren shifts gears back to his main goal. He's desperate for them to form an official team. Seo-woon wonders if one can only form teams. Ren explains that anyone can form a fixed party of up to 8 people if they want. This group can join the same matches together, no matter where they live in the real world. Seo-woon asks for final confirmation. Does he really want to play together? Ren confirms it. After talking plenty, the two decide to head home for now. On the walk back, Hammett reminds Seo-woon that Ren was once an enemy. It's weird he's so willing to team up now. Seo-woon just shrugs. It's just a game, and he isn't the type to hold a grudge. Plus, he figures it's better to have teammates who actually know how to follow orders. Hamd keeps arguing why this might be a terrible mistake. But Seo-woon knows everything is a risk. Suddenly, Hamd senses pure killing intent. He warns Seo-woon that 3 attackers are closing in right now. He asks if he should shift into weapon form to finish this fight fast. However, Seo-woon doesn't see the point. This trio is so amateur they can't even hide their presence from a mile away. Seo-woon pinpoints exactly where each one is hiding. Once he has them locked in his sights, Seo-woon confidently tells them to quit hiding and show themselves. Realizing they are caught, the 3 walk out acting like they're the big shots here. They tell Seo-woon to watch his mouth. He has no idea what they can actually do. Seo-woon asks what they want. The bald guy can't believe how arrogant this kid is acting. He warns Seo-woon to just cooperate if he wants to stay in one piece. Hearing their typical thug talk, Seo-woon realizes these are those low-level hunters you and I see on the forums. H-Med asks one more time about the weapon transformation, but Seo-woon tells him to just relax. It is simply not worth the effort. Just like that, Seo-woon unleashes a terrifying aura that sends chills through their souls. Alright, let's jump back in as Seo-woon gives them a final chance. Turn back now, and he will let them walk. The group leader tries to play mind games to get Seo-woon to drop his guard, labeling our main character as a terrorist officially wanted by the state, while pretending to be on an official mission. He warns Seo-woon to cooperate or be branded as a dangerous criminal. He claims that using powers in a residential zone is already a serious felony. But Seo-woon is not moved, promising to leave them be only if they stop bothering him. And if they really want his help, they better bring a warrant because he is not about to follow some random thugs. Suddenly, one of the guys loses his cool and lunges at Seo-woon from behind. But Seo-woon is ready, reacting with lightning speed. He spins around and launches a devastating punch straight toward the man's face, stopping just inches away to prove he could have easily crushed him if he wanted to. He coldly reminds the group that they were the ones who drew their weapons first. The leader realizes they fell right into Seo-woon's trap and immediately scolds his teammate for being so reckless. Seo-woon then tells the guy it is insulting to think this weak group could ever actually restrain him. He asks them straight up, "Do I look like some rank amateur to you?" Suddenly, multiple Seo-woon clones surround them, making the trio realize they have made a massive mistake. The intel they had said he was a solo player, with zero mention of him having allies. Seo-woon warns them, one last time, to never get involved with him again, making it clear that if they keep their distance, he will also stay away from them. Before vanishing, he tells them to learn how to measure an opponent's true strength next time. One man asks about tracking him, but the leader shuts that down, not wanting to provoke him further. He decides it is much safer to just leave Seo-woon alone for the time being. Hamd, on the other hand, wonders if it would be better to kill them all to prevent any future headaches. But Seo-woon reminds him that murder is still a major crime in this world. Once he gets home, he starts considering whether it is finally time to find a new place. He is still puzzled about how they managed to pick up his trail so quickly. He suspects it might have something to do with that necklace he sold at the pawn shop. Either way, you and I know he's ready to show them who he really is if they return. However, after his recent talk with Ren, it is confirmed that for someone on their second run, our main character is terrifyingly powerful. In fact, his coin count actually dwarfs what most veterans earn after their 20th or 30th run. Seo-woon vows to use every single coin to get stronger and stay at the very top. He realizes that surviving in the game and reality are not all that different anymore. He spends the whole night in deep meditation, only stopping once he realizes it is already morning. But he has only managed to gather a tiny bit of inner energy, proving that training in the real world is just way too slow and inefficient. So, he decides to try out the specific method Ren had suggested earlier, back when they met at that cafe the previous night. Alright, you and I are about to see Ren make a move. He points out they are strangers and needs training to build trust. Soo-woon is skeptical. What exactly does he mean by training? Ren explains the obvious. Practicing your in-game skills in the real world is the best way to get stronger and survive. But they can't exactly practice powers in public. That's why top-tier teams rent private islands, just to stay hidden while training. Before locking in their team, Ren insists they need to bond through combat. Trust is earned on the battlefield. Plus, they level up while bonding. 2 birds, 1 stone. Ren admits Soo-woon beat him pretty badly last time. Even so, Ren claims Soo-woon is a decent player despite being weaker than him. Before parting, the two finally exchange contact information. Honestly, Soo-woon never expected he'd be reaching out to this guy so soon after their fight. But he's desperate. Ren is the only one he knows who actually understands the mechanics of this game. Soo-woon decides to make the call. He tells Ren that those government dogs were already sniffing around his place the night before. Ren is shocked. It's only Soo-woon's second run, and he's already got federal hunters on his tail. Soo-woon asks if this is normal, but Ren confirms it's definitely not. Something is off. Did he do anything out of the ordinary? Soo-woon admits to selling Escrow's necklace at a pawn shop. Ren says that's great for quick cash, and he does it too. How does he hide his tracks? Ren explains his secret. He melts the jewelry down before selling it so it can't be traced back. Soo-woon is stunned. He realizes Ren has some seriously shady tricks up his sleeve for a high schooler. Ren reassures him. If he wants to lay low, Ren can definitely make that happen. He's an expert at dodging surveillance and using proxy accounts to vanish. Basically, turns out he was a legendary hacker on the dark web, something we didn't see coming. Soo-woon is floored. This just proves how dangerous and insane Ren really is in the criminal underworld. Soo-woon asks when they can start training, and Ren tells him to be ready by tomorrow. The next morning, Soo-woon waits at the bus stop exactly where Ren told him to be. Ren pulls up on his bike and tells Soo-woon to hop on. They need to grab supplies before heading out. Soo-woon is curious. Where exactly is the secret training ground? Ren tells him it's going to be about a 1-hour ride. When asked for the location, Ren reveals he bought a small mountain in the suburbs just for his training facility. Soo-woon is absolutely blown away. He can't help but ask just how much money this kid actually has. Ren casually asks if Soo-woon thinks he's rich, which honestly just pisses Soo-woon off for some reason. He swears that on his next run, he's bringing back a fortune. He feels pathetic holding onto a high schooler's waist as they zip through traffic on a bike. 1 hour later, they reach the mountain, and it's completely surrounded by a massive fence. Ren tells him they'll have to finish the rest of the journey on foot. Soo-woon is stunned that Ren could afford a whole mountain and the security to match. He mutters about how easy life is when you're that rich. Ren says he's got it wrong. He's just a player focused on profit. Every cent he has came from the loot he survived with from the game. As they sprint toward the facility, Soo-woon asks if he really didn't just use his parents' bank account. Ren sighs, admitting it's a very long story. But he explains to Soo-woon that he already knew Call survived. Thanks to his deep web digging, he's ahead. In fact, he's strategic. He only brings back loot that holds massive value in the real world. Since he's been in the game 13 times, Soo-woon asks Ren exactly how much bank he's actually made. Ren casually lists it off: 2 houses, an entire mountain, some extra land, stocks, and 80 million yen in cash. Our guy is basically a multi-millionaire. Soo-woon is floored. He can't even process the insane amount of wealth Ren has accumulated. He actually loses his balance, face-planting right into the dirt from pure shock. They finally reach the training center. Soo-woon spots a strange crystal in the gym. Is this more high-tier loot brought back from the game world? Ren explains it's a barrier stone. Once activated, the real magic happens. Everything inside its radius becomes totally invisible to the outside world. Soo-woon wonders why he didn't use it in-game, but Ren has a very specific reason. It was crafted by an alchemist using game materials. Translation: it's impossible to bring it back inside. It's a shock to Seowoon. Real-world items are strictly barred from entering the game system. Ren adds one small exception. An advanced subspace ring can smuggle them into fixed-player games. That is the only loophole. Seowoon realizes the truth. You need to become a fixed player to get your hands on that. Seowoon is hungry and wants to eat, but Ren insists on having a quick match first. Ren brandishes his staff, admitting that after losing in the game, he's been training like a madman for a rematch. He suggests a quick power check before they officially start their training session. Seowoon is surprised that Ren really wants a fight. Ren warns him not to hold back, or it'll hurt. Haememed offers to transform into a weapon, but Seowoon tells him to just sit back and watch. Ren makes the first move, unleashing a sudden, crackling lightning strike. But Seowoon is ready, leaping high into the air to dodge the blast. He lunges toward Ren, looking to end this duel with a single, decisive blow. But Ren reacts, putting up a solid barrier to block the strike. The attack is halted cold. Seowoon admits this is easily the toughest shield he's ever hit. Ren smirks. This barrier scales with his raw magic power. It won't be shattering anytime soon. Seowoon leaps back. He's impressed by Ren's growth. He used to think mages who just spammed spells were trash, but this is different. Looking at the situation now, it seems he finally has to start taking this seriously. Seowoon summons shadow clones for a dash, but Ren fries them all with a burst of lightning. Seowoon uses the distraction to lunge toward Ren. He taunts his opponent, reminding him that he's not the only one with magic. Seowoon unleashes a freezing ice blast at Ren. Ren is forced to raise a flame wall, boasting that he'd never fall to such garbage magic. Suddenly, Seowoon is right there, throwing heavy punches that Ren dodges with surprising elegance. Even Seowoon has to admit, Ren is surprisingly capable for a mage. Suddenly, Seowoon's legs are snapped into a freezing ice trap. Ren promises he won't be escaping easily. This is the powerful Earthbinder restraint spell at work. He brags that he's not like those common mages who only know a couple of tricks. Ren summons a huge lightning strike to roast Seowoon on the spot. But as he's celebrating his certain victory, he feels a sudden, light tap from behind. He spins around in shock, only to find Seowoon smiling right at him. Ren panics, demanding to know how Seowoon got behind him. Seowoon just smirks, revealing that was only a clone. Ren is stunned. He didn't sense a thing, even at such a close distance. Our main character explains he has been working hard on erasing his presence lately. He asks for Ren's opinion, and Ren admits the skill is so flawless that he wouldn't even notice a thing if they were in the middle of combat. Seowoon points out that this just means Ren hasn't mastered his inner energy yet. Ren asks if he was holding back. When Seowoon confirms it, Ren sighs in pure disappointment, realizing there is just no way he can challenge Seowoon one-on-one. But Seowoon actually praises him, noting that his magic power has grown significantly. He asks if Ren used a high circle stone to pull it off. And Ren reveals it's actually thanks to a staff he crafted using materials from the previous game. Apparently, this item boosts magic power by 90% and makes every spell hit harder. Plus, it can store up to 5 spells for instant use. Seowoon completely loses it when he realizes you can create overpowered gear like that from simple game items. Ren explains that he can't actually take it into the game world just yet. But once he becomes a fixed player, he will be able to do exactly that. Seowoon is genuinely impressed, admitting he's never seen gear like this. He guesses it's worth 200 coins. But Ren corrects him, explaining that coin value and actual item worth are two different things. He mentions that in Cloyd, most items can be picked up for a ridiculously low price. Unless it's a rare find, which is how a guy like him makes bank with just a few coins. He explains that players who drop out and can't return to Cloyd often become alchemists to focus on crafting. Ren adds that they even find it more fun because they're making money. It's the best of both worlds, really. Seowoon hears this and simply concludes that everyone has their own unique tastes. Since they're done sparring, Seowoon decides it's finally time for the two of them to eat. Ren asks how many coins he's racked up, and Seo-woon casually mentions he's got under 500. Ren nearly passes out from the pure shock when he hears that, telling our main character that he's actually the wealthy one here. But Seo-woon admits he traded most of that wealth for elixirs and special items. So the money's gone. Ren asks if he really dumped everything into stat upgrades without thinking, calling it a total waste since 500 coins could have been turned into a fortune. Seo-woon shuts him down immediately with a sharp retort, telling Ren he's stuck at such a low level because he's always obsessed with money. Ren has to admit that the guy actually has a solid point there. Meanwhile, the private organization hunting Seo-woon delivers their report to their boss, a terrifying giant named Tatsuya. After reviewing the information provided by his subordinates, he concludes that Seo-woon is definitely someone they need to keep a close eye on, even if they don't know his true identity or current location quite yet. Only the lead that he sold a necklace at a pawn shop. Back on the mountain, Seo-woon is pushing his limits, training his skills, specifically the shadow clones. He pushes himself to the absolute extreme and quickly discovers that his current limit of clones is 7. Trying to manifest any more than that is simply asking too much. While he is busy training, Ren is also hard at work, unleashing powerful magic spells in every direction. Seo-woon is genuinely surprised too. See Ren firing off high-tier spells repeatedly, as if they were nothing more than basic magic. Even after everything, Ren still believes he can push himself even harder. Seo-woon tells the guy to quit training and eat already, because he is absolutely starving. A few minutes later, Seon finishes cooking up a big pot of ramen for everyone. He can't believe he's been stuck on kitchen duty since the very first day. He notices Ren has been on a long phone call, and concludes that it must be a call with his girlfriend. Ren clears the air, revealing the person on the phone is just his little sister. Seo-woon still takes the opportunity to dunk on Ren, saying it must be nice being rich because his family is always happy. Ren replies that they are close because she is the only family he has left. The moment Seo-woon hears this, he completely freezes in shock. Ren explains they are the only ones left because their parents passed away back in middle school. Overwhelmed with guilt, Seo-woon asks him why he never mentioned anything about his past. Ren says it's not a fun story, and he didn't mind being treated like a spoiled rich kid. Honestly, a drunk driving accident took his parents from him 4 years ago. When it happened, relatives who hadn't visited in years suddenly swarmed the funeral, acting totally in charge. He later found out the relatives had actually split all the condolence money among themselves. One day, Ren's sister asked for help telling their aunt and uncle about their day at school. But Ren just screamed at her to do it herself. He still hates that he yelled at her back then. But the pressure of losing his parents was just far too much. To make things worse, he was being bullied and beaten at school every single day. Every time he returned home, he felt the crushing weight of supporting his family. Eventually, he just shut himself in his room and started browsing the deep web. That was when he discovered his incredible talent for hacking. This was his first real lesson in survival. Initially, he couldn't believe a world like this existed. But soon, he was completely absorbed in it all. He hoped an invitation would come and finally change his whole life. But that invite never arrived. Then, the lease on the house they shared with their parents finally ended, forcing them to move from a city apartment into a cramped basement unit in the suburbs. His uncle claimed it was due to rising costs, but he had actually embezzled their entire house deposit. It was then Ren realized it was just him and his sister against the world. One day, Ren ran outside, screaming at the heavens and asking why they had to keep suffering like this. Tears fell as he realized the world had totally abandoned them. Right in the middle of his breakdown, he receives his first invitation to the game. That was 2 years ago, and Seo-woon asks if he ever settled things with his bullies. Ren says he didn't do anything because they all went to different high schools. Plus, he keeps a low profile and avoids any trouble. If he lands in jail, no one is left to protect his little sister. Ren admits that putting some distance between them was actually for the best. But Seo-eun knows it wasn't just the move. Things changed because Ren finally stepped up. He actually started taking care of himself for once. Seo-eun asks if it is really fine leaving his sister all alone back home for an entire month. Don't worry, Ren says. She is with their aunt, who is basically like a second mother. Since she is on a long break right now, she is busy helping out at their orchard. With that cleared up, Seo-eun suggests getting back to work. Flash forward a few weeks to the National Security Department. Narus, the administrative manager, is absolutely fuming. She is laying into her juniors for targeting ability users without any proper authority or backup. This recklessness just gives the ability users more reason to join the resistance and fight back. The field operative tries to deflect, claiming they were just following orders from the higher-ups. That only makes Narus angrier. She slams her fist onto the table. She tells him flat out that hiding reports is a direct challenge to her authority. The guy still tries to play it off, acting like the report was just delayed. That is it. Narus loses it and smashes the entire table with one brutal punch. The guy hits the floor in absolute terror as Narus looms over him, asking if he is really trying to call her a fool. The other operatives finally realize that the department head is going around Narus to use a private organization. No wonder she is this pissed. Apparently, Narus was once at the top of the food chain in this place. But she was demoted after becoming an ability user, forced to work alongside these low-level agents. She storms out of the office, announcing that a formal disciplinary hearing is being scheduled immediately. She tells the lead operative, Yosha, that he is officially suspended from all duties until further notice. Back in her office, Narus realizes the truth. The upper management is planting spies just to keep an eye on her every move. She wonders how much longer they plan to drag out this pathetic little charade. She is completely isolated in the organization now. Since she is an ability user, her boss does not care about a single thing she says. Meanwhile, it is now day 23 on the mountain. The two of them have finally gotten used to this grueling training together. Even Seo-eun is impressed. He tells Ren that he has made massive progress over the last few weeks. Still, no matter how hard he tries, Ren just cannot seem to beat Seo-eun. But Seo-eun reassures him. He has grown strong enough to fight without relying on that staff. Plus, Seo-eun has been leveling up too. He can now summon up to 8 clones at once. Seo-eun suggests grabbing a bite to eat before they finally head down the mountain. Ren is shocked that Seo-eun eats ramen every single day. He mentions that he really missed the taste while stuck back in the game. Ren admits it is way better than jerky. Seo-eun agrees, nodding along. Once you add some eggs, it is basically a 5-star meal. It is still pretty weird that he built this much muscle just from eating cheap noodles. Then, Ren reveals a little secret he heard. Apparently, those who master inner energy build muscle way faster than normal. Their physical stats just shoot through the roof. Siwon is absolutely stunned to learn that there is actual research on this. He reminds Ren that by the time they return, it will already be a new semester. But Ren replies that he has got a massive pile of work waiting at his company. Basically, he left everything sitting idle before heading up to the mountain for training. Even for a small operation, things stop without him. After all, he is the president. Seo-eun completely loses it. He did not expect a high schooler to be running a business. Ren realizes he never mentioned it. Yeah, he actually runs a small online shop. He explains that converting items from another world into cash is tricky when the amounts are huge, which is why most players end up setting up shell companies for their funds. They might operate at a loss, but the rewards from Cloyd make up for it easily. Ren tells Seo-eun to keep it in mind if he ever struggles with too much money. Seo-eun is speechless. He admits that the more he learns about Ren, the more he realizes how sharp he is. Just then, Ren drops a bombshell. He already prepped a new place and moved Seo-eun in. Siwon is blown away again. He asks why Ren did that without asking. A move like that must have cost a fortune. Ren admits the neighborhood is a bit rough. but it is a spacious 3-bedroom, and the deposit was a full 20 million yen. Ren explains that with so many people hunting them, Seo-eun needs his identity kept safe. Still, Seo-eun wonders why Ren trusts him enough to drop 20 million like that. Siwon is blown away. He tells Ren he did not need to go to such extremes. But Ren just calls it a loan he can pay back later. Seo-eun panics. He frantically argues that 20 million yen is not pocket change, but Ren is certain he will earn it back. Once they finish eating, the two of them pack up their things to leave. And with that, their 3-week training camp finally comes to an end. You and I can see how much Seo-eun's life has changed since joining the game, moving from a trashy 1-bedroom to this luxury apartment. Stepping inside, Seo admits the place is even bigger than he expected. Ren says it looks that way because it is empty. He asks if Seo-eun likes it, and Seo-eun quickly nods. Honestly, he is just overwhelmed. It feels way larger than his old family home. As a housewarming gift, Ren offers to buy him any one appliance he wants. Sawon is floored. Ren just gave him a 20 million yen debt and still wants to buy gifts. Nonetheless, he thanks him for everything. He tells Ren to go see his sister since he has done enough. Once Ren leaves, Hammett finally pops up. He demands to know why he was sealed away for a whole month. Seo-eun explains he needed to train alone. Hammett is shocked at how much the house changed. Seo-eun tells him that it is a very long story. He sits down to sort items he can sell for furniture. Suddenly, he feels a strange, chilling presence in the distance. He looks out the window at a burning apartment building. A player is definitely behind this mess. Seo-eun realizes that there is another player out there who. Seo-eun isn't one for drama. He's barely moved into this neighborhood and already someone is causing absolute chaos. Right then, a sudden knock at the door sends him into a panic. Only Ren is supposed to know where he lives. He creeps toward the door, nerves on edge, but when he swings it open, he finds the police waiting. The officer quickly explains the situation. They are evacuating everyone because a massive fire just broke out across the street. Seo-eun has no choice but to follow orders, all while wondering which idiot is responsible for this huge mess. He joins the crowd outside, but the situation is spiraling fast. The flames are only getting taller and fiercer. Suddenly, Seo-eun senses 8 distinct presences nearby. It is clear they are hunting something in the middle of this. Curious and alert, our main character decides to track down exactly who their intended target is. Meanwhile, a mysterious lady is fighting for her life against a group of thugs. She is clearly a high-level mage. She tells them to back off, insisting she just wanted a quiet life until they forced her to fight. Watching from the shadows with his cloak of hiding active, Seo-eun notices the lady is reaching her limit. Just then, the men charge all at once. Even the lady realizes she is out of options and prepares for the end. But before they can touch her, a series of ice vines suddenly snap shut around them. Seo-eun was the one who cast the spell. He is actually surprised that his ice lance can be used as such an effective restraining spell. They spin around to see Seo-eun behind them and demand to know exactly who he is. But he just tells them that his identity is none of their business. The group immediately assumes that Seo-eun is working with the lady. He just looks at them with pure disgust, calling it pathetic that a whole team is jumping one woman. The thugs start panicking, screaming about an ambush. They scramble to launch a counterattack. But before they can react, Seo-eun is already dropping them to the ground. After he wipes them out, the lady asks which organization he is with. Seo-eun tells her that is another detail she doesn't need to know. Right then, the men pull out weapons and lunging toward them again, determined to take them both down by force. Instead of running, the lady decides to stay and fight. Seo-eun is genuinely shocked. He went through all that trouble to give her an opening to escape. And she just stays there. He tells her straight up that her situational awareness is absolute garbage. He doesn't even know how she has survived this long with those instincts. The lady ignores him and unleashes a massive fire attack, forcing the thugs to scramble back. But they quickly regroup. Warning her not to underestimate Stockpile, They have already taken down players much stronger than her before. But then Seo-eun steps in again, appearing behind the swordsman and landing a punch so brutal his head almost caves in from the impact. The lady can only stare, wondering who this monster is. Before she can speak, Seo-eun grabs her, hauling her away from the scene before the men can regroup. Once he is certain that nobody is following them, Seo-eun unceremoniously dumps the lady onto a rooftop. She has been screaming the whole time, and Seo-eun finally snaps, telling her she is one incredibly noisy woman. She snaps back, arguing that being carried like a grocery bag is rude and made her nauseous. She asks if he is from a rival resistance group, since she has never seen him in her own organization. Seo-eun just replies that she's completely baffled, asking if he's part of some private group or a government agency. Seo-eun simply says no, but the lady isn't buying that for a second. She saw him effortlessly taking down the agents who were trying to hunt her down. She pushes him, wondering if there's a shadow organization out there that she doesn't know about. Seo-eun just shrugs it off, claiming he's just an ordinary guy passing through. Even though she stays persistent, he's not interested in explaining himself. He tells her to lay low and consider herself lucky, because he won't save her again. And just like that, he vanishes into the shadows. Honestly, he only stepped in because he hated the way those government agents were operating. Still, he's questioning why he bothered sticking his neck out in a mess like that. Was it some player kinship, or was he just accidentally playing the hero for a moment? Moments later, back home, Hammett points out that showing mercy really isn't his usual cold style. Seo-eun's excuse, he just really hates those guys in the formal suits. Just then, Ren calls him up, worried sick, because he just saw a massive explosion in the area. Seo-eun confirms he's fine and fills him in on what happened with that mysterious lady. Ren absolutely loses it when he hears Seo-eun got involved. Like, what was he actually thinking? Since his place is empty, he starts shredding tissue paper to make a bed. He tells Ren he planned to just watch, but he couldn't just stand there. Seeing them all ganging up on one lone woman was just too much to ignore. Ren can't believe this is coming from the guy who usually kills without hesitation. In the game, he was putting arrows through people's heads without a second thought. Seo-eun argues that the real world and that survival game are two different things. Ren asks the million-dollar question, did any of those guys see his face? He says no, the cloak of hiding worked. Private groups are fine, but the government. If the agents take notice of him, it's going to be a nightmare to handle. Ren urges him to stay under the radar before things get way too complicated. Seo-eun agrees. He finally got a new house and he's not losing it now. Call over. He settles in, planning to grab a heated blanket first thing tomorrow morning. The next day, Narus heads to the hospital where the agents Seo-eun trashed are currently being treated. She storms in and the team panics. She's livid, demanding to know what went wrong. The team leader stammers that they were completely blindsided during their secret operation. Narus isn't having it. She's absolutely furious. As the department manager, she wants to know why she wasn't informed about this. Who authorized this mission? Who's going to answer for this absolute disaster of a failure? She's about to explode when the general manager walks in, looking way too calm. Turns out, he's the one who gave the green light behind her back. Narus demands to know his authority, but he claims the intel was too time sensitive. They had to act immediately, no time to wait for her consent or paperwork. She asks him point blank, is he going to be the one to take the fall? The man just brushes it off, saying the fallout has already been handled internally. He tells Narus not to worry because he's already smoothed things over with the bosses. And then, the man just keeps talking trash like he's untouchable. He notes that failing is just part of the work. Narus just needs to get used to how things work on site. Then he tells the agents to heal up fast so they can actually support Narus next time. After that annoying speech, he bluntly tells Narus it's time for her to head out. Narus orders the leader to submit his report as soon as he is discharged. A few days later, Yu and I see Ren catching up with Seo-eun to ask if life changed since the rescue. Seo-woon sighs, asking if he's about to get another lecture from him. But Ren is genuinely worried. He thinks Seo-woon is being way too reckless lately. While Ren is busy ranting away, Seo-woon is totally distracted by Ren's necklace, wondering if he should get one himself. Seo-woon mentions that government agents are crawling all over that convenience store he visited earlier in the day. Luckily, it seems like they still haven't caught on to his real identity yet. Plus, he's fairly certain they are hunting for the mystery lady instead of him. Honestly, Seo-woon thinks staying nearby is safer. After all, hiding in plain sight is usually the smartest way to play this kind of game. Then he asks about that term the agents used. What exactly is a stockpile? Ren shrugs it off, saying it's not that big of a deal. It just refers to regular people who use items to get powers, instead of being real players. They don't actually level up through the system like everyone else. It's not very efficient, but for normal humans, they're still impressively strong. Suddenly, Seo-woon's phone rings, and he answers it without checking the caller ID. The guy on the other end starts screaming immediately, and Seo-woon realizes it is his loud friend, Jun. Jun reminds him that tomorrow is Naoki's birthday, and he's already rented a venue. He's insisting that they all head over there together. In that moment, it finally hits Seo-woon. He realizes that he has been so obsessed with Cloyd that his real life had completely slipped his mind. Seo-woon admits he totally forgot about the party, and Jun says he called now to avoid a really complete disaster. Jun tells him to just send his address so he can swing by and pick him up tomorrow. Seo-woon asks if he's forced to attend. His friend admits Naoki can be a pain, but they still have to celebrate his big day. Seo-woon is still trying to argue when Jun drops the bomb. Mina is going to be there too. Apparently, they met back in their first year of high school and ran in the same crowd. Because of that, they slowly became friends, but for Seo-woon, it was love at first sight. He even begged his buddies to help him score more time alone with her. He kept it inside for an entire year, but when he finally worked up the courage to confess, everything shattered. After that, Seo-woon didn't see Mina again for the rest of their entire second year. Once the call ends, Ren casually asks if this Mina girl was his first love. Annoyed, Seo-woon asks if he used some magic spell to eavesdrop, but Ren points out the phone was just incredibly loud. Seo-woon clarifies that she wasn't exactly his first love. It was just a massive, one-sided crush. He admits he got rejected pretty hard. Ren offers to teach him a confession technique that has a 100% success rate. He decides to hear what the guy has to say. All right, let's jump back in. Ren warns Sean not to give girls any time to overthink things. He explains the secret is striking when they least expect it, the most critical part of the whole plan. Seo-woon wonders what to do next, and Ren just gives him a very confident look. Ren says he just needs to look his crush in the eye and say those 3 little words. Tell her he likes her and ask her out on a date directly. He is shocked by how simple the method is, but Ren swears it works every single time. Apparently, this is exactly how Ren has managed to land every single one of his girlfriends. Sean doubts the advice, though. There is no way they have had the same experiences in life. Cheyenne eventually heads out, making sure Ren promises to get home safely after their talk. Ren throws a playful jab, wishing Seon the best of luck with his big confession. Early the next morning, Jun pulls up to Siwon's apartment right on schedule. Jun is legitimately stunned to see that Seo-woon looks nothing like the awkward dude he used to know. He is also completely blown away by just how massive the apartment actually is. Seon just claims he is renting a room from an old friend from school. Now it is Seo-woon's turn to be surprised when he sees his friend's new car. That is exactly why he offered the ride. The guy reveals he saved every penny and even took a small loan for it. Siwon tells him that he is probably the only guy in their entire age group who actually bought a car with his own hard-earned money. As it turns out, Jun landed a job immediately after finishing high school. It was rough at the start, but now he is working at a stable and decent mid-sized company. Inside the car, Seo-woon asks Jun where Naoki actually made the dinner reservation. Jun replies that they are heading to a super high-end yakiniku restaurant. He asks about a gift, but Seowoon says he is just going to toss the guy a gift card or something simple. Moments later, they pull up and Seowoon is shocked by how expensive the place is, and I can't blame him. He wonders if Naoki is paying, and Jun explains that Naoki just wants to flaunt his wealth. As they walk in, the crowd recognizes them instantly, calling them the Shame Brothers. Apparently, that nickname was just a clever play on both of their actual names. Someone asks if he really served in the military. He confirms it, saying he plans to head back to school soon. One guy taps him on the shoulder, asking where he got those muscles. Seowoon just shrugs and calls it light exercise. Everyone is enjoying themselves when Naoki and Mina suddenly make their grand entrance. Naoki speaks coldly to Seowoon, but Seowoon keeps it cool. He ignores the insults and focuses entirely on Mina instead. Naoki is furious that the guy is talking to him while looking somewhere else. Seowoon tries to smooth things over, mentioning he sent over a gift card for his birthday. But Naoki taps him on the shoulder, claiming he doesn't need a cheap gift card. He tells Seowoon to just sit and eat. Soon, the party gets lively and everyone starts getting seriously drunk. Seowoon realizes he has been so buried in the game that he's totally forgotten his real life. C1. He knows Naoki, who is rich thanks to his parents, only invited him to flaunt his superiority. In truth, everyone else here is the same. They look at a guy like him just to feel better about themselves. Naoki steps out for a call, leaving one guy to ask the question we are all thinking. One guy chimes in, saying Naoki has been desperately trying to win Mina over lately. Turns out, Mina is actually working at a company owned by Naoki's father. Some think she only got close to Naoki for the job, but who knows? Others aren't so sure. Jun then starts teasing Seowoon, asking if he came just for Mina. Seowoon shuts it down quickly. That is all deep in the past for him now. He has to admit, though, the meat they are serving is actually top tier. That is when Naoki struts in, bragging that this food is way too expensive for Seowoon. Naoki leans in, asking if anything is bothering him, but Seowoon says he is totally fine. Honestly, he is just happy to see some of these old faces again. Naoki tells him to look up, claiming he is killing the vibe for everyone. Seowoon cannot believe this guy is still just as annoying as he used to be. Naoki keeps pushing, promising to solve all his problems like some big shot. Seowoon plays along, saying a rich friend is always handy and he will be sure to call if he needs a favor. Naoki tells him not to be shy because life is brutal when you have no status. Seowoon even pours him a drink. But Naoki uses the moment to insult him, saying he pours just like a low-level waiter. Total trash talk. He adds that he likes how Seowoon knows his place and stays in line. Done with the nonsense, Seowoon slams his cup down on the table with force. He tells Naoki he must be wasted and really needs to lay off the booze. This absolutely sets Naoki off. The others try to calm Naoki down, but Seowoon looks him in the eye and asks if there is a problem. Naoki scoffs, claiming he has nothing against a loser like him, so he should just start acting like one. Even Hammett is fuming, practically begging Seowoon for the green light to shut this guy up. But Seowoon stays silent, just staring the guy down with a cold gaze. The group starts blaming Seowoon for the drama, while they struggle to hold back a raging Naoki. Absolutely ridiculous. Naoki demands an apology, but Seowoon just stands up to leave, regretting he ever showed up. He tells the group they can do whatever they want, he is officially done here. He leaves Naoki with one final thought, he is pathetic. His desperate need to flaunt his cash is sad, and that sends Naoki into a total frenzy. Walking down the street alone. Seowoon is not even stressed, he is pretty sure he will never have to see those people again. Instead, he is just looking forward to the next game starting up. Meanwhile, Tatsuya and his organization get word that they finally tracked Seowoon down. The second Tatsuya hears the news. He stands up and tells his men to gear up. They are going after him. Because Seowoon is the one they need. Specifically, to create stories and translate them into other languages. So after having the translation and checking the translation in detail, and I gave this translation to our partner abroad to create audio and process the audio, we have an audio file like this as for the images. We that appear in our videos are collected from Google Images, and then we will only select images that fall under usage rights allowed for reuse and modification. We use Google's rights filtering tool according to the